Some footballers play to entertain. Some play to inspire. Some simply play to win. And then, there are the rare few who refuse to accept defeat. No matter the score, no matter the opponent, no matter the stage. For Sergio Ramos, losing was never an option. He would score, tackle, fight, lead, sacrifice. Whatever his team needed, he was prepared to do it. To some, he was a hero. To others, the villain. But to every teammate who ever shared a dressing room with him, he was the captain you wanted beside you when everything was on the line. Because great captains don't just wear the armband. They change the belief of everyone around them. This is the story of the captain who refused to lose. Sergio Ramos was born on the 30th of March, 1986, in Camas, just outside Seville, Spain. Football was everywhere. From the moment he kicked a ball, his competitive nature stood out. Winning wasn't something he learned. It was part of who he was. Even as a child, he hated losing. Whether it was training, a small-sided game, or a family kickabout, every match mattered. Every challenge mattered. Every victory mattered. His talent quickly earned him a place in Sevilla's academy, one of Spain's finest footballing schools. There, his ability became impossible to ignore. Strong, athletic, fearless, comfortable on the ball, aggressive in the tackle, and remarkably composed for someone so young. Although naturally a defender, he already possessed something unusual. An instinct for goal. He attacked set pieces as if he were a striker. It was a sign of things to come. At just 17 years old, Ramos made his first team debut for Sevilla. Most young defenders take time to settle. Ramos played with the confidence of a veteran. He never looked intimidated, never hid from responsibility, never waited for someone else to lead. Every performance seemed to carry the same message. I'm ready. Supporters loved his commitment. His teammates trusted him. Spain's biggest clubs started paying attention. Then came the call that changed everything. Real Madrid, one of the biggest clubs in world football. A club where expectations crush careers. A club where good isn't good enough. At just 19 years old, Real Madrid invested around €27 million to bring Sergio Ramos to the Santiago Bernabeu. At the time, it was one of the highest fees ever paid for a teenage defender. The pressure was immense. The spotlight relentless. Every mistake would be analyzed. Every performance judged. Many young players would have been overwhelmed. Sergio Ramos wasn't. He embraced it. Replacing established stars at Real Madrid is never easy. Winning over the supporters is even harder. But Ramos didn't ask for patience. He earned respect. Week after week. Season after season. Throwing himself into tackles. Blocking shots. Winning headers. Driving forward with the ball. Even in those early years, there were signs he wasn't an ordinary centre-back. He wanted to influence matches, not simply survive them. As his game evolved, so did his reputation. He became faster, stronger, smarter, capable of playing at right-back or centre-back, equally comfortable defending world-class forwards, or starting attacks himself. Then came another remarkable quality: goals. Important goals. Big goals. Goals that changed seasons. It wasn't normal. Defenders weren't supposed to decide the biggest matches. Sergio Ramos never cared what defenders were supposed to do. He did what his team needed. Real Madrid were building another generation. Iker Casillas, Pepe, Marcelo, Xabi Alonso. Some of the finest footballers in the world. Among them, Sergio Ramos became something different. Not simply another star. A leader. A player who never disappeared when the pressure arrived. If anything, the bigger the occasion, the stronger he became. He wasn't just preparing to become one of the world's greatest defenders. He was preparing to become the heartbeat of Real Madrid. Every great captain faces a moment when leadership becomes more important than talent. For Sergio Ramos, that moment was coming, and it would define not only his career, but the history of Real Madrid itself. Because sometimes, one player can change an entire football club's destiny, and Sergio Ramos was about to do exactly that. Every great captain eventually faces a moment when defeat feels inevitable. For Sergio Ramos, that moment arrived on the biggest stage in club football, the UEFA Champions League final. Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Lisbon. Real Madrid had spent years chasing one dream, La Decima, their 10th European Cup, the trophy every supporter craved, the one every player carried on their shoulders. But with seconds remaining, the dream was slipping away. Atletico Madrid led 1-0. The clock showed 90 minutes. Then 91. Then 92. Hope was fading. Around the stadium, people had already accepted defeat. Sergio Ramos hadn't. One final corner. One final opportunity. Luka Modric stood over the ball. He delivered. Ramos attacked it. Higher than everyone else. One perfect header. One unforgettable moment. Goal. 93rd minute. Football history changed forever. Real Madrid survived. Extra time followed. Madrid won 4-1. La Decima was finally theirs. When Real Madrid needed one player to refuse defeat, Sergio Ramos answered. That goal didn't simply win a trophy. It changed a football club. The pressure of La Decima disappeared. Confidence exploded. Real Madrid entered one of the greatest eras any club has ever experienced. 4 Champions League titles in 5 seasons. An achievement few thought possible. At the center of it all stood Sergio Ramos. Leading, organizing, competing, refusing to accept second best. By now, he wasn't simply one of the world's finest defenders. He was Real Madrid's captain. The armband suited him perfectly, not because he was the loudest, but because actions speak louder than words. He threw himself into every challenge, blocked shots others wouldn't attempt, played through pain, and when the biggest matches arrived, he demanded the responsibility. Great captains don't ask others to lead. They lead first. His influence stretched far beyond club football. With Spain, he became part of one of the greatest international teams the sport has ever seen. UEFA Euro 2008. Champions. FIFA World Cup 2010. Champions. UEFA Euro 2012. Champions again. 3 major tournaments. 3 trophies. An era of complete dominance. Alongside legends such as Iker Casillas, Xavi, Andrés Iniesta, Carlos Puyol and Gerard Piqué, Ramos became one of the foundations upon which that dynasty was built. Yet what made him truly different wasn't only his defending, it was his timing. When Real Madrid needed a goal, Ramos often scored it. Towering headers, powerful finishes, last-minute equalizers, pressure penalties. He finished his career with well over 100 goals. An astonishing total for a defender. Because Sergio Ramos never believed defending was enough. If his team needed more, he gave more. There was another quality his teammates admired. Courage. No matter how big the occasion. He never hid. Champions League finals. El Clásicos. World Cup knockout matches. Title deciders. He wanted the pressure. Because pressure creates moments. And Sergio Ramos built an entire career around unforgettable moments. By now, supporters around the world recognized something unusual. This wasn't just one of football's greatest defenders. This was one of football's greatest leaders. A captain who inspired belief simply by being on the pitch. But that same mentality would also make him one of football's most controversial figures. Because refusing to lose. sometimes comes at a price. Winning comes at a price. For some players, it's pressure. For others, it's expectation. For Sergio Ramos, it was controversy. No defender divided opinion quite like him. Some admired his passion. Others questioned his methods. Red cards, fierce tackles, heated confrontations, endless debates. To some, he crossed the line. To his teammates, he was doing whatever it took to win. That was Sergio Ramos. He never apologized for competing. Throughout his career, he became one of the most decorated defenders football has ever seen. 5 La Liga titles, 4 UEFA Champions League trophies, 2 Copa del Rey titles, 4 FIFA Club World Cups, 3 UEFA Super Cups, a World Cup, 2 European Championships, more than 180 appearances for Spain, over 100 career goals. Numbers that few defenders in history can match. But statistics only tell part of the story. The goals mattered. Not just because there were so many. Because of when they arrived. Last-minute equalizers. Cup finals. Title races. Champions League nights. When everything was on the line. Sergio Ramos always believed there was still time. That belief spread through every team he played for. One player's mentality became an entire club's identity. Eventually, after 16 unforgettable years, his Real Madrid journey came to an end. Supporters said goodbye to more than a defender. They said goodbye to a captain, a leader, a symbol of one of the greatest eras in the club's history. His departure marked the end of a generation that had dominated Europe. A new challenge followed. Paris Saint-Germain. Injuries made life difficult. The opportunities weren't as frequent. But his influence inside the dressing room remained. Young players listened. Experienced teammates respected him. Leadership doesn't disappear when your pace fades. It comes from experience, from standards, from example. Then came one final homecoming. Sevilla, the club where it had all begun. Nearly 2 decades after leaving, Sergio Ramos returned. The teenager who had once dreamed of becoming a professional came back as a World Cup winner, a European champion, a multiple Champions League winner, and one of the most recognizable defenders football has ever produced. Sometimes, football writes the perfect ending. So, how should history remember Sergio Ramos? As one of football's most controversial players? Perhaps. As the defender with the most red cards? That's certainly part of his story. But reducing Sergio Ramos to controversy ignores everything else he achieved. Football isn't played by perfect people. It's played by competitors. And few competitors wanted victory more than Sergio Ramos. He inspired teammates, delivered in football's biggest moments, scored goals that changed history, lifted trophies almost every player dreams of winning, and wore the captain's armband exactly as a captain should, by leading from the front. The greatest captains aren't remembered because they were flawless. They're remembered because they refused to disappear when everything was against them. Sergio Ramos never hid. Not after mistakes. Not after criticism. Not after defeat. He faced every challenge head-on. That resilience became his greatest strength. Perhaps that's why Real Madrid supporters still sing his name. Not because he never made mistakes. Because when everything depended on one player, they knew exactly who they wanted. Sergio Ramos. The captain. The leader. The competitor. The footballer who simply refused to accept defeat. Football has produced many great defenders. Some were elegant. Some were uncompromising. Some were brilliant organizers. Sergio Ramos was all of those things. But above everything else, he was a winner. A captain whose mentality transformed teams. A leader whose belief changed matches. A footballer who refused to lose. And that's why Sergio Ramos will always be remembered as the captain who refused to lose. A true footballing icon.